All right, welcome everyone to the first week of Jumpstart. This is very exciting. It's a new program for us. We've been putting in a lot of work to make it happen, and it feels great that it's finally the day. Um, just to introduce myself, my name is Liam. I'm the president of C4C. You might have seen me at some of our other calls if you've been able to make it from that. If not, nice to meet you all. I'm a fifth year in the computer engineering computer science program. I just want to give a quick thank you to everyone to making it up, getting up on a Sunday to actually come to our virtual call. I would say making out of bed, but you don't necessarily have to be out of bed, so I'll save my assumption there. And I just want to make a quick announcement. You guys should have all received an email that gave you instructions on how to join our Slack workspace. It's super important that you do that. I think if we can just drop like the workspace link in the Zoom chat, just whenever you get a chance, please make sure to join the Slack. That's where we're going to be doing the majority of communication throughout the semester and help you with any questions that you have throughout things. So I'm going to let Connor, who is our lead for Jumpstart, who's going to be the main one talking to you guys, take over. But join the Slack if you can. If you guys have any questions throughout the presentation or the workshop at all, or even throughout the week, the Slack is the best place to go. You can also leave them in the Zoom chat. We'll be kind of looking around at everything as things are going, so we can try to answer any questions that you guys have. With that, Connor, you want to introduce yourself and take over?
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, I'm Connor. I'm a fourth year computer science student. Going to Northeastern, enjoying my time here. And as Liam said, I'm the Jumpstart program lead. So I've been working with a team of other people in C4C for the past couple of months to put this all together for you. So we're really excited for it all to start, and I guess I'll just begin. Again, as Liam said, please join our Slack channel. Like he said, that's where we're going to be doing a lot of the communication, and it'll just be really easy for you guys to let us know if you have any questions. I also have my chat window open for Zoom right now, so if you have any questions during the presentation, just please let me know. Just shoot me a Slack, and I or another member of my team will help you out. Again, don't forget to check in. So I'll give like another couple seconds for that, and then we can begin. All right, I'm going to assume that's good enough. Welcome everyone to week one. I'm really excited to have you all here. So we'll just go through the agenda right now. So today we're going to start off by going through a Jumpstart overview, which is basically going to be talking about what Jumpstart is, who the program is for, things like that. Then we'll be going through the project setup and some terminal basics. Again, going through Jumpstart overview, what is Jumpstart, who is this for, how should I prepare, what am I building, very general things like that. What will each week look like, important links, how will the projects be organized, and what will I be learning? In project setup, we'll go through a couple important topics like what is Git, installing IntelliJ, a high-level overview of cloning the repositories, and where you should go to look for the other apps to install. Finally, in terminal basics, we'll be going over a couple common commands that are really important in your development career, and a couple build tools that are really popular and the ones that we actually use in C4C if on these development teams. So let's kick it off. What is Jumpstart? So if you don't know, Jumpstart is our new program that focuses on teaching the basics of web development to beginners. Over the next couple of weeks, we have about 9 to 10 sessions planned right now, including this one. We'll be going through a lot of the fundamentals that you'll need to know for developing an interactive web application. And our aim is to give you the tools that you'll need and to help you understand how to develop a personal project of your own in the future. So who is this program for? This program is really for anyone who's interested in software development or interested in the inner workings of a basic web application. We highly encourage non-computer science majors, and while a background in computer science or computer programming is recommended, as long as you complete the recommended preparation, which will we'll get down to below, you'll probably be well prepared for this course. We'll also have a few dedicated tutors to monitor the special Slack channel that we mentioned earlier, Jumpstart Help and Jumpstart General, more for general things that are going on. If you have any questions, because there are no dumb questions. This program and a lot of the technologies that we'll be using are very broad and they have a lot of functionality. So it's very easy to get lost or confused. So again, please let us know if there are any questions that you have. Next slide. How should I prepare? Well, great question. So to prepare for this course, we really recommend that you take the Java Code Academy course. It's the free course is more than enough to teach you a basic understanding of Java that we're expecting you to have. And if you already know Java, then you'll probably be fine without taking it. But for anyone who feels they can benefit from the course, we highly, highly recommend it. On the website, it says it should take 25 hours, but that includes all of the paid content too. So really expect it to take around 5 to 6 hours max probably. If you finish that and you're still looking for ways to prepare, the JavaScript Code Academy course is another great thing to look at. Learning Java will help you better understand JavaScript and the TypeScript syntaxes that we'll be messing around with later on. So we, at the very least, recommend learning that and coming to this later on. But if you're really interested, then definitely check it out. What am I going to be building? Well, throughout this course, you're going to have the opportunity, but you're not really required to develop a project through our weekly assignments. It's a social media website, similar to a blog. Think of something like Medium, if you know what that is, with posts, comments, likes, which we're calling claps, and a few other little bits of functionality. If you have an idea of a project or anything you'd like to make instead of ours, feel free to join us and work on your project instead. Like it was said earlier, if you're not required to make the project. It's more of a side thing that we highly recommend you do. Keep saying highly a lot, but there are a lot of really important things to do in this, and it'll really help solidify a lot of the topics that we're going to cover. If you don't end up working on your own project, or if you do end up working on your own project, be aware that the materials that we give out every week won't really end up helping or being as applicable to your project as much as it would to the Jumpstart project. And you may encounter issues and concepts we won't be covering. However, feel free to use us as a resource for addressing and understanding these problems as they come up. The end goal of this, as I said, is to make a Medium project. So if you want to see a little example, just look up Medium blogs and you should find something pretty similar. We'll probably release a few images or demos of it later on in the course. What technologies will I learn? Well, let's start off by getting some terminology out of the way. You'll be seeing some of these terms really often over the rest of the course, and they're really important in distinguishing the main two sides of the application. The front end is the part of the application that a user will see and interact with. It's really the code that runs in a web browser in the case of web applications, like the Gmail web page. The backend is the part of the application that isn't often accessed by users, and instead the front end will connect with the backend for performing calculations, storing data, and providing interactions between multiple front-end applications or the like. For Gmail, the backend would be the part of the application that deals with storing the actual email data, returning it to the front end when requested, sending emails, and actually moving your email from the inbox to trash, spam, archive, or wherever else in storage. Throughout the course, we'll be teaching and providing demonstrations for a lot of the backend the Java backend using the Vertex framework, which is a dependency handling setting up the boilerplate stuff or stuff which is commonly set up in the same way throughout almost every project with a PostgreSQL database and a TypeScript front end using the React framework. Again, if any of these terms seem a little new to you or you're confused or at any point you just want to look them up, we have a Jumpstart dictionary, which I'll get to a bit later, that you can use for all this. The front end uses packages such as Material UI for UI components, Jest for testing, Axios as an HTTP client, and React. And the backend will use libraries such as Vertex, Vertex Web, PostgreSQL's database driver, Jackson for JSON utilities, JUnit 5 for a testing framework, and Mockito for a mocking framework. Throughout the course, we'll be covering a lot of topics like Git terminal commands, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, servers, HTTP and REST, requests, testing, databases, APIs, and cloud deployment. That's really a mouthful, but don't worry if any of that is new or unfamiliar to you. We'll be sure to cover all of this and answer any questions you may have. Next, we'll be getting to how the projects are organized. So when you initially download and look at the projects, which will hopefully come up soon, you'll see a bunch of different folders and files and everything, and probably with like a lot of strange names and file types that you've never really seen before. We'll go over quick descriptions of the files right now, and you'll learn a lot more about everything below in the coming weeks. So don't worry, or coming in the coming weeks. So don't worry if you don't know what we're saying. Starting off with a couple of the more common files that are, seen throughout every project. We've got .gitignore, which is a file type containing regular expressions to describe file types that we don't want Git to keep track of, or when we make commits or pushes to GitHub. And yeah, we'll cover a lot of those terms later, but really quickly, a regular expression, or regex, is a syntax used to define text matching algorithms for a given pattern. And on our learning docs, we have a couple websites that you can use to see what they look like, try a few out on your own, and just play around with them a little bit. Next, we have license, which isn't always included with files, but we put one here just so that you can see what one looks like. It's really a file for detailing licensing information. And in our case, we're using the GPL 3.0 license, which means pretty much that anyone can modify our code for whatever they want with a few conditions. You'll rarely have to deal with this in practice, but we just wanted to add one, mostly just so that you see what it looks like. README is probably one of the most important files that you'll see. It's like an introduction file, and it's written in a format called Markdown. Notice the .md suffix, which allows for really simple and easy formatting. It can be used, or usually this file has descriptions of the software that you're writing, whatever the project is, instructions for setting it up, and any other information that the developer would like to provide to the end user. Next, we'll start looking at some of the front-end files. So starting off, we have node modules, which is a directory housing all of the JavaScript packages that you'll need. You really never have to do anything with the directory other than deleting it if you're having weird issues, but that should be relatively rare, since everything having to do with this will be handled for you. It will appear after you run some special commands, which we'll show a little bit later, it's using NPM, which is a program to handle and download external dependencies and packages that you want to use in your code. This directory is usually not included in a Git repository because it's pretty big. Next, we have public. Next, we have public, which is a directory to store unique files and images like manifest files, HTML files, or just special image files that you want anyone to be able to easily access and reference. Following that, we've got package.json, which is a file containing dependency and package information, as well as scripts to be running, scripts to run using NPM, and a few other important information pieces about your project. I just got a question saying, are we supposed to have an account for the link, or are we making an account? I'm sorry, which link are you referring to? The Slack account link? I'm gonna assume it's the Slack account link. And if so, yes, you'll need to make an account for that. And you just want to use your Northeastern email address, and that should work perfectly for you. If you have any questions, again, let me know. Next up, we have the SRC directory. Oh, oh, the Jumpstart signing link. Sadaf, do we require a Northeastern account to fill out that link?
No, you can just put in whatever email that works for you.
Okay, cool. But you do need to have an account, right?
Yeah, because you want your emails.
Yeah, okay. So continuing, the SRC directory is a directory with your actual project files. All of your React components, views, tests, and the main stuff of your code will be inside of here. tsconfig is a file that holds information about TypeScript configurations, and TypeScript is sort of like a typing system for JavaScript. And so this will allow you to enforce specific rules and deal with a couple things with the transpilation, or the actual translation of TypeScript into JavaScript before it's run. Package.lock.json holds a lot of information on requested dependencies, which dependencies are required for the requested dependencies, and special information that should rarely change. And it's generated from the package JSON file, and any changes you make that will eventually be reflected in there. So you really shouldn't have to deal with modifying that. And it should definitely be included in a Git repository, because it'll let other projects know what you'll have to download. Travis.yml holds information for deployment on Travis CI, which handles continuous integration and continuous deployment for application. Basically, it builds and deploys your apps to wherever you configure it to do. For this project, we have it just to double check our code as we work on it and make the weekly updates to make sure there are no styling issues or any breaking changes before we push our catch-up code for the week. So it's really not anything you're going to have to be worrying about. We also have a few other files in here that were recently added, such as that have the name prettier and ESLint and TSLint. Anything with lint or prettier in it are files related to linting your program or cleaning up the code. And linting is basically there for just making sure that your code looks nice, going through and reformatting it, and enforcing a couple styling rules. Okay, now onto the backend. So on the backend, we really only have a couple important files. One is the pom.xml, which is very similar to the package.json in the front end. It's a file that holds build instructions, dependencies, and other project information. Oh, can everyone hear me? I just got a message saying my mic might be really quiet right now. Okay, cool. Glad to hear. So where were we? Oh yeah, pom.xml. Yeah, basically just the package.json of the backend. It also allows you to use some plugins like, what is it, NPM uses, so you can run external code to help you with your code. API is a directory handling the routing information and data transfer objects, which we'll get to a bit later. Persist is a directory for handling and saving data, and service is a directory for holding the main method for your project, so you'll be able to start it up from there. It also handles connecting everything together and basically running your project. This is like where all the magic happens. So here's just a quick peek of what your week might look like. Every week, we'll have one of these meetings where we'll go over new concepts you'll need to use to build your projects. And after the meetings, we may give out a description or some starter code and other resources for what we think you should work on during the upcoming week. You're always free to work on other parts of your project or not do it at all if that's what you want to do. Again, it's an optional project, but we do recommend it. And the following weekend, before the next meeting, we'll send out what we're calling catch-up code, which is our implementation of the concepts and descriptions that we told you to work on during the week. This catch-up code will show the current state of the project and the progression of our app over time. And the reason we're doing this is because we understand that you're a student and that there are weeks that you just may be sick or drowning in work or really just not in the mood to work on your project or stuck on some issues, but you'll probably want to stay caught up with the material. And so this is our way of ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to be on the same page. Now on the slide, you can see like an example of someone's week. They can start on Monday, review some workshop notes, take a look at the assignment for the week, maybe even rewatch this video. On Tuesday, they might take their first shot at the assignment, probably just spending a bit of time on that. On Wednesday, maybe take a break. Thursday, probably try and finish the assignment and check some questions or ask some questions in Slack. Friday, enjoy yourself. And Saturday, review the catch-up code and fix any mistakes you can find. Again, all of the work that you should be doing during the week should probably take around, a couple hours, but probably not more than like 3. So just in case you don't have the links or don't know where they are yet, we have a dictionary along with some links to the front-end starter code, the back-end starter code, our Slack, which again, please join, very important resource, our GitHub repository, website, and general documentation on the C4C Jumpstart docs website. The link for that is right there. It's just learn.c4cneu. If you want to check it out, take a second right now and look at it. And I'll just go through a couple of the important links that we have there. So we've got links to, again, our docs, the C4C important links section of the docs, which is another important section, our front-end starter code, our back-end starter code, the YouTube channel, our Slack, our GitHub repository, our website, our dev docs, links to the Code Academy courses, and a few other really important things like that. We also host our learning, like our Jumpstart workshop scripts basically there. So if you want to just read through it rather than rewatching this video, you can also check that out. And we have a couple of tips and a few other things in there if you're interested in following along. So now on to, actually one more thing I want to cover really quickly before we get on to setting up the project. So on the dictionary up there and all those scripts and everything, if there's an edit that you would like to see implemented or just changed or whatever, you think that there's some better way to do something, feel free. There's a pencil icon up in the upper right, and you can feel free to make the changes and they'll be sent off to us to approve them. There's a little bit more information on that in a few places on there. So just for future reference, if you want to make changes and make something more accessible, please feel free. So for project setup, you'll want to be checking out the Jumpstart docs a lot for that. We have a video there for helping you get set up and just like a few extra commands that you want to use for that. The overall setup process will just involve cloning the repositories on your computer and then reading the readmes to see how to set up each individual project. And yeah, again, we have our video there, so definitely check that out. First, we'll start off with Git. You've probably heard the words Git and GitHub a few times, probably from me, if not before. So right now, I'll just take the time to describe them and a few other important terms that come with that right now. There's an Atlassian tutorial, which is a company that does a lot of CS-related stuff for Git. And it's really helpful in looking up new topics or covering new processes that you're just interested in with Git. So Git is a form of version control for your code, which means that it tracks changes to a project over time, which is really useful, and it provides 2 main benefits. One, if you ever make a mistake in your work and you have to undo a bunch of changes you made, it's really easy to do. You just type a couple commands in and it'll go back to whatever your last save changes were. And two, you can work on multiple different features at once without worrying about them interfering with each other, which also means that you can have multiple separate people working on the same project without having to interfere with their work, while providing ways for them to combine their changes together at the end. GitHub is a repository or a website that hosts GitHub repositories for many major companies and open source projects, meaning their code is open to anyone to view, edit, or use. It provides a lot of useful features, like allowing people to review changes before they're actually accepted, and acting as a remote server people can use for both storing their code and collaborating with others. Repositories or repos represent an individual project in Git. Cloning is when you download a repository from an external host, such as GitHub, to your computer. Checkout is a command in Git that lets you switch current code to a different branch. Branches are the way that a different history is created for a specific feature or bug that is being worked on, and they allow you to split off from a different point and make isolated changes without having to worry about changing the code that you split off from. A lot of these concepts are a bit complex and might be hard to visualize right now, so don't worry about that. We have a GitHub workshop or a Git workshop coming up in the coming weeks. So the very first thing you'll want to do for setting everything up is installing IntelliJ. Really quickly, we're not actually going to be going over a lot of the setup process during this workshop because it actually takes a lot of time to go through it. A lot of it's just spent downloading things and waiting for things to install. So you can definitely do it in the background of like doing some other work. Like if you're doing homework, you can just let a few of these things go, or if you're watching TV, just have it go. So we're not going to be doing it right now, but we'll just describe a couple things that you'll have to do to get started with that. So again, we recommend installing IntelliJ as your code editor for all the code that you work with over the semester. It's an IDE, or an integrated development environment, which is a really fancy text editor that provides you a lot of built-in functionality for compiling your code, debugging it, working through any of the any issues you may have, or automating some of the process for you. Once you do that, you'll be able to clone some of the repositories to your computer. You may need a GitHub account to do this, so if you encounter an error trying to clone it, then just feel free to set one up and retry the steps after logging into IntelliJ. Inside of IntelliJ, you'll want to go to File, New, Project and Version Control, and it'll let you paste in a Git link and download Git if you haven't done that yet. The links that you'll need to use for downloading are on the scripts, and we'll probably send them out after this. And so you'll just be able to paste those in and it'll download everything for you. I just got a question. Will the recording of this meeting be posted anywhere? Yes, so we are planning on posting this meeting to our YouTube, which again is in our important links section. So you'll be able to access it there and whenever you need to. So once you download the projects and they're open, you'll want to view the starter code by typing in some special commands, which we'll provide you. And if you don't run the commands, then you'll be able to see what we're working on with a later stage version of the project, which is all right. But if you want to start off from the beginning, then you'll probably want to use it. So again, we'll send that later. And once you've done that, you're ready to install the other programs that you'll need to use and build the projects. If you've encountered any issues, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. It's really common to run into errors when setting up a new environment. So there are a few other programs that you'll need to install before we're done. And remember that readme.md file that was mentioned a while ago? That's where we'll have a lot of the more in-depth descriptions of what you'll have to do and the steps to set everything up. So you'll just open it up in IntelliJ once it's ready and follow along. There's a little button up in the upper right, which will allow you to view it as like a pretty formatted text. So try to use that if you like it. I think it looks better like that. But you'll see it when you start working on it. Again, don't hesitate to reach out to us. It's very tricky setting it up, so we'll be carefully monitoring the Jumpstart help channel in Slack. Okay, so now we're going to move on to learning some actual commands. You'll probably use a lot of these throughout your development career, and the terminal is a really important tool which you'll find extremely useful. Not only does it allow you to access settings and commands, which you would otherwise not have access to, it's sometimes just easier to be able to do some things by typing out commands rather than pointing and clicking with the mouse and going through a bunch of different menus. Learning how to use the terminal really well might take a while, but we'll get you started with a few commands that everyone should know, and we'll also show you how to build the projects once you have everything installed. So really quickly, I'm just going to pull up my terminal right now. So give me a second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick. And then after that, we'll go on to build tools. Okay. Cool. Does everyone see my terminal right now? Cool. Okay. So one more thing before we get started. So right now we'll be going through a couple common commands. Again, the terminal is a tool which uses specific commands to perform system level actions. And the way that it works is each terminal instance, like a tab or window, works in a specific directory. And a lot of the commands utilize the files in the directory or a subdirectory. The actual command syntax depends on which shell or command line language and interface is being used. And the Windows Bash, or the Windows operating system, uses the command prompt as a shell, while Mac and Linux often use Bash. Don't worry if those don't make sense. Well, they're sort of complicated things which you'll get into in systems, and you won't really need to know super well until then. So starting off, we're going to use the cd command. It's arguably one of the most used commands in the terminal, and it stands for change directory. So it allows you to navigate around your computer. So I'm in the squiggly line represents the home directory. So that's where your terminal will start up, and it's where all of your files will be compared to the rest of the computer, or like the rest of like the system level files and another user's files. So say I wanted to go to the desktop directory, which is right in here, and I'll show you how to list directories in a second. You just type cd and then desktop. So now you see that right here it changed to desktop. Next, you can go back up a directory by using the ... syntax. So you say cd and ... and that'll allow you to go back to where you were. You can chain them together. So if I wanted to go up a bunch of directories, I could say cd ... // and that slash represents a different directory, like in the syntax. So now I'm back up at slash, which is the root directory. If I want to go back to my home directory, I can either type cd or cd/ or squiggly, and that'll take me back to here. And if I want to go back to this root directory, you can just type cd and slash. Next, I'll show you ls, which is another very commonly used command, and it lists out all of the contents of a directory, both the files and subdirectories. So right now we're at the root directory. If you want to see what's going on there, you just type ls. ls. So you see how it prints out all these different files and directories. You can tell a directory from a file in that a directory has a slash at the end of it. An executable. Oh, so the equivalent command on Windows is dir, dir. I just got a command or a question about that. Does the same exact thing. And at some point when you're setting this up, we'll have Windows users go through the process of setting up this little program, which is a terminal that can be used on Windows. It uses Bash on Windows. So don't worry if you can't use these all now. We'll recommend that you go through and try out the commands at the script on the Jumpstart script later on, so that you can try them out once you have this set up, since these are the ones that are probably most commonly used in the actual development world. I don't see a lot of Windows. I haven't personally seen a lot of Windows commands being used, so we're just going to try to have everyone work with this during the semester. Bash, so I just got a question, what is Bash? Bash is a shell, which is like a command language or interface that gets used. So again, Bash is like one that's often used on Mac computers and Linux computers, while command prompt is used on Windows. If you want to open up command prompt, just try CMD, and that'll in the start menu, and that'll open it up for Windows users. So again, going through the way that this looks, anything with a slash at the end is a directory. Anything that's got this little star is something that can be executed, so you can run certain commands with it. And then anything that's just like normal like that is like a file that you can open or use with stuff. You can also look at hidden directories. So if I go back to my home directory right now, I can list the files here. And you can see like all these little things right here, like all of your common directories, like desktop, documents, downloads, Google Drive, just all of these really commonly used directories. But there are also hidden files and directories in there too. So if you type ls-a, that'll let you see everything there. It stands for list all. So now, not sure if, yeah, you can see up here, there are a bunch of files up here that weren't shown originally, like bash history, bash profile, bash rc, git config, .git. All of these are now shown when they usually be hidden by your file explorer or your finder, or just like the regular ls command. You can also list specific files in a subdirectory or like a parent directory by typing ls and then the directory name. So if I wanted to see files in desktop, I could say ls desktop, and it'll show me the files there. Or if I wanted to see the files in a directory above me, I could say ls, the file or the directory above me. Next, we'll be using another important command for navigating around, which is pwd, and that stands for print working directory. So if we try pwd out right now, you can see that I'm in C users con E. Don't know why it's like that, but that's where I am right now. If I go to slash, and I said pwd, it'll show me that I'm at slash. If I go to my home directory and then desktop, and I said pwd, it'll say desktop. That's pretty much all there is to this command. It's a really simple one, but it lets you know where you are, so it's pretty important. Another command, so I'm going to go to my desktop really quickly. And, I'm already in desktop. Okay, so another command that's pretty useful is if I wanted to move a file. So say I have a file, really quickly, another command is touch, and that lets you create a file. So I'm going to touch test.txt. So now you can see test.txt shows up right here. Moving on to move though. Move, again, it allows you to move a file to another location, or it can be used to rename a file or directory. So say I wanted to move test to one directory up. So I can say move test.txt to the parent directory. So now we can see here, it's gone. And if we go up or list the parent directory, we can see test.txt now appears here. If I want to move it back, it's the same thing, slightly different. So cd or move test.txt to documents. So now you can list it here, and you should see, oh, sorry, I moved it to documents, not desktop. So I can change directory over to documents and list it there. Now it's there. So if I wanted to rename it though, I could do something pretty similarly. So I can take it and say move test.text to test.markdown. So now if we look here, it's now test.md. One thing to note while doing this is that you can't move a file inside or a directory inside of itself or like one of its subdirectories without messing with a few more complicated topics that we're not really going to cover. So just if you're trying to like, say you wanted to move Python scripts inside of Python scripts, that can cause some issues. So your file system will get pretty mad about that. Oh, I see I missed a few questions. Liam already answered them, but I'll just walk through if anyone can't see them. When you cd into a folder that doesn't exist, will it automatically create it? So no, it'll actually give you an error that the message or that the directory doesn't exist. So yeah, let's see. Let's do copy. So another command that's really important is cp, and that just allows you, it's very similar to move or mv, and it just allows you to copy a file to either another location without actually moving the file. So say I wanted to copy test.md to test.text again. I could say cp test.md test.text. So now if we look here, we got two files. Or say I wanted to copy one of them to desktop, I could do it similarly to how we moved test.text from desktop to documents originally. So we can do move test.md, or sorry, copy test.md up a directory and then back into desktop. Oh, my bad. Mistyped that. So now if we list here, they're both still here, but if we go up, over, and into desktop, you can see that it's now here again. If you want to copy a directory, like, I don't know, say my chg directory right there, and I wanted to copy everything inside of it too, we can pass in a special flag, or just like a character with like a dash in front of it that allows you to do extra things and specify extra stuff to the command. And it'll allow us to copy everything inside of it too. So if I wanted to copy chg here to the same place and copy everything inside of it too, I could say cp chg chg1 and then -r. That should allow you to copy everything inside of it too. Another important command, make dir. So if you want to create a new directory, I showed you the touch command for creating files. We won't probably use that one a lot. It's not commonly used, but make dir is commonly used because you often want to create a new directory for stuff. So if you want to make a new directory called Jumpstart, you can say mkdir Jumpstart. And now if we look here, we got our Jumpstart directory. And if we list everything in Jumpstart, you can see that there's nothing in it right now, but we can add stuff into it later. Another command, so we've been creating and moving a lot of things around, but now say we want to delete something. If you want to delete something, you can use the rm command. So if I want to delete test.md, I can say rm test.md. Now if we look here, it's gone. You want to be a little bit careful about using it because once it's used, the files are pretty much unrecoverable without some special software. So yeah, just keep that in mind. There are two flags that you can use with this if you want to delete a directory, since directories are a little bit special. If you want to do that again, so you'll say rm jumpstart. If you try it without without these special flags, it'll just fail because it's a directory. But we can pass in rm-rf and say jumpstart. and that'll recursively and forcefully remove it. So that means it'll delete all subdirectories and all files within it, and it'll just force it, which means like it'll make it work sort of. There are some directories you might not be able to delete without some other special commands too, but for most cases, this should probably work pretty fine. Also, disclaimer, there's a command that can sometimes be seen that looks like this. It's rm-rf/. Never ever run that command. It's a very dangerous command that will end up deleting everything in your computer, because remember, the / command is the root. That's where all of your files originate from, so don't do that. There are a couple protections, but you really don't want to test them out. Oh, okay, a cool one that we have is called cat, like C-A-T. That'll allow you to read and print out the like the contents of a file. So say we got, I don't really have any great examples here. Let's go to documents, and maybe we can go to code or something, and I'll go to Jumpstart front end. Let's print out the contents of, let's see, package.json. So we can cat package.json. And so it'll print all the contents of the file out there. If we want to do readme.md, we could try cat readme.md. Pretty simple, but it's also pretty useful if there are times when you just don't want to have to open a file to look at some of the contents. Let's see. A really interesting one is called Vim. And Vim allows you to open up a text editor, which usually comes pre-installed on a lot of terminals. So it allows you to open files, edit them with a couple keybinds, and then write and close the files. But it's pretty notorious for having like a steep learning curve. So people tend to avoid it. However, it can be a pretty powerful tool if you do end up spending time to learn it. So right now I'm going to open up a file and show you basically just how to get out of it and how to write in it, because those are sort of hard to figure out initially. So let's try Vim README. So now we're in here. You can navigate by using HJ, K, and L. So this is J is down, K is up. I lets you insert and write some stuff. And then Q will let you quit. So Q will let you get out of there. And yeah, so again, going in Vim README, a lot of people forget the Q command. So remember, it's :Q. That's just how you quit. If you want to save the whatever changes you made, you can open it up and just make whatever changes you want, and then do :W, and then :Q. And now if we open it again, you can see the changes that I made up there. And again, when you go into, yeah, Liam mentioned it, but if you go into insert mode, so the one where you can start text typing, to get out of it, you press escape, and then you can do the : commands. So I'm going to get out of there, and yeah. If you're interested in like learning more about it, there's a command called Vim tutor, which will go through like how to use Vim and everything. But it's a bit long, so very useful if you want to learn it, but we're not going to go through it right now. Another text editor is called Nano. Pretty similar to Vim, but in my opinion, it's terrible and it leaves me annoyed every time I use it. It's slower, so I prefer Vim to it, but you can definitely use this. It's a lot easier to get into. So Nano, README again. You can start looking around, use the arrow keys to move, and you can see the commands all at the bottom. So the caret right there stands for control, so I'm just going Control X to exit. I think we only have like a couple more, so I'll try to finish it up soon. I know we're getting near the end. Sudo is a command that lets you do, it stands for super user do, and it's required at times where elevated permissions are needed. So this may be when you're dealing with system configurations or programs that might make you access possibly sensitive information, and your password will be required to actually make the changes. It's sometimes a good thing, but you definitely shouldn't start using it when a program isn't working the way you want it to. Again, it gives permission to like whatever program you're calling it with, like it gives that elevated permission, so you need to be a little bit careful about using it. And the way that it looks is like sudo and then whatever other command you want. I'll show you an example with npm install right now. And we'll learn more about npm in a couple minutes. So sudo, actually if I ran it without it, it would go npm install -g create React app. It'll probably, I don't remember if I have it installed here, but it'll probably throw up a little error. See if it doesn't take too long right now. Yeah. Oh, I guess it did work. Okay, well, you can probably just trust me that there will be times where you need to use it, and so it's like something that you'll want to remember, but use sparingly. Man is a command that allows you to show the manual for a command, and it's a lot of the same as just calling something with -h or --help, or like flags. So we can try it on cat right now. So man cat. Oh, I guess I don't have it installed here. Let's see, cat help. Okay, usually it'll print out something like this and let you work through it, and you can just use Q to exit, similar to Vim. But I guess it might not come installed with this shell right here. So I think people on Mac and Linux can probably use it, but maybe not Windows. Okay, so last thing that we want to do before we finish up, npm and Maven are build tools. You'll probably want to use, or you've probably seen these terms used quite a bit recently. So we'll go over the basics of what they do and how to use them. They work in the directories with your projects and require some special files to tell them how to work and which dependencies to install. So remember, the front end had a package.json file that was used for npm. npm reads that and uses it to configure your project. Maven is for the backend, and it similarly uses the pom.xml file. So npm stands for Node Package Manager, and it's what's commonly used to install like the packages and dependencies and run the servers and scripts for the front end. And yeah, so we can try it out right now. We can try npm start right now, and since I'm in the front end directory, you'll be able to use that at some point too. And it'll start up and open up a browser for you. It's not showing it right now because I'm just showing my terminal window, but you'll be able to try that out later. And one other important command that you'll need to learn is npm install. I won't run it now because that also takes a really long time to do sometimes. So you'll need to do that before running npm start. And then when you're done, you just hit control, or then it should finish up, and you can run it with npm start and then get out of it with control C. So yeah, just control C there. Now onto Maven. Maven's similar to npm in a lot of ways. It's one of the popular build and dependency managers for Java, and it allows you to import plugins, like I said, format code, adjust how your project is built. And you can also create some sort of sub-projects which provide modularity and flexibility within your code. So if you take a look at the backend project later on, you might notice that there are multiple pom.xml files, main one in the project root and a few more in API persistent service. It's the way that we set up the project. So each of the subdirectories are modules, and therefore they're sub-projects of the backend project, which basically means that they're groups of code that can be compiled separately of each other, but used as dependencies of other modules. If you look at the pom.xml and the service directory, you'll notice that there are dependencies on the persistent API modules, and each command run in Maven is called a goal and can make up parts of other goals. So if we go over to the backend directory, so Jumpstart backend, we can say Maven with MVN, and we can say clean install, and that'll run, delete everything in the project, and then rebuild it right there. So the common commands that you'll want to use are just mvn like the basic MVN command, MVN install, and yeah, you'll see a few more in the README if you end up reading that, but that's pretty much it. Here, I'm going to stop presenting again and get the slideshow up so that we can finish up here. I know we're almost at the end right now, so thanks for bearing with me. Okay. One more second. Okay. So for next week, so this week we want you guys to all try and install and set up the project and all the programs that it'll require. Again, let us know if you have any questions at all. We'll be here to help. And next week we'll be going over the basics of front-end development. Oh. Thank you so much for coming. You did it. You just sat through me lecturing for an hour, and you completed your first Jumpstart workshop. Also, you're on your way to develop some more web applications. So we're really excited for you, and we're really happy that you all came. Please fill out our feedback form down here, and yeah, let us know how we did.
Thank you, Connor. Fantastic, fantastic workshop. I'm glad we got through it. Thank you guys all for coming. I know this workshop was very kind of lecture heavy since we just kind of go through some basic information. In the future, we're going to try and do some more kind of participatory stuff. And really, Jumpstart isn't just this workshop. It's what you guys are doing throughout the week. If you want to set up the project, make sure you're on our Slack. We're going to be posting all the information about this workshop and our previous workshops, or any of the text and links that we talked about throughout this week. You'll also have it there. And Sadaf, as you can see, the recording for this will be on YouTube, and we'll link it in the Slack and in all of our learning documents. So thank you all for coming. First week of Jumpstart, a lot more to come.